country, more types than any other country.
300
Almost every
types?
meal
I want to eat
incorporates some kind
sourdough
of
bread.
slice or small bun or brötchen of bread.
Brötchen.
Hast du gluten-free? Nein! Germans are heavy meat eaters.
Hey guys, welcome to our channel. Today we are going to watch geography now of Germany.
Oh.
And so Germany is a very interesting place. We have seen like the best places to visit in Germany, and I think so this video will be very explanatory about everything about Germany. And Germany is a curious thing because the only thing that we know of is about the world wars, and
yeah,
those
Hitler.
things. Yeah, but after that I think so in few of videos we got to know a lot more
Beauty
things.
of Germany.
Yes, so I think so this will be much more informative video, so let's watch this
Video.
All right. Lederhosen, Schnitzel, beer, bratwurst, order, bread and beer, complicated
Wow.
history beer, no humor, EDM, and gummy bears that will kind of like give you diarrhea, but it's like worth it. Ugh, those are such horrible stereotypes that every German is so sick and tired of hearing.
Oh,
Gummy bear?
Oh.
Germany is known for gummy bears.
Geography now! Hey everyone, I'm your host Barbie. So we've conquered Belgium's castle, jumped through Denmark's lagoon, danced through France's forest, and now we've made it to the final boss of the EU, King
Germany.
Germany.
Level 1, begin.
Oh wow.
Ah, you know why I'm smiling. Yep, Germany has a lot of territorial anomalies. We'll get into that in a little bit, but first, Germany is located in central Western Europe, bordered by 9 other countries. Don't forget little Luxembourg, with small
Wow.
coasts on the
Oh.
North and Baltic Seas, which they own about 50 small islands. Now, Germany, like the US, is a federal republic which has 16 smaller states, or Bundesländer, each with its
16
own
states.
constitution, 3 of which are cities, the capital Berlin,
Berlin.
Hamburg, and Bremen, which is actually kind of like 2 cities, including Bremerhaven on the coast, but they kind of act like one entity. Fun side note, Lower Saxony is actually geographically situated further north than regular Saxony. Now let's jump into the fun stuff. Now, we already discussed the Jungholz Quadrupoint and the Vennbahn railway enclaves with Belgium and Austria. However, there's a few more. The entire town of Bussingen am Hochrhein is surrounded by Switzerland, whereas part of the Konstanz is cut off by the Rhine River and surrounded by Switzerland. However, immediately across the river, a small patch of empty land on the German side actually belongs to Switzerland. Finally, they split the island of Usedom with Poland in the north. Germany is interesting because every state in the country has its own distinct culture, dialect, history, food, traditions. I mean, Bavarians will be quite drastically different from Schleswig-Holsteiners. Mecklenburg-Vorpommern will be different from Saarland. This all has to do with ancient and recent history. Basically, in the quickest way I can summarize this, Germanic tribes, Roman wars, Charlemagne, 3 kingdoms, this guy marries an Italian, creating a whole new mess called the Holy Roman Empire, made up of 300 smaller separate kingdoms, states, and dukedoms, which had nothing to do with Romans. Teutonic Knights, Brandenburgs became Prussia, Habsburgs became Austrians, Lithuanians and Poles made their own thing, whereas the Hungarians joined the Austrians.
so much.
Wars, battles, Napoleon comes over and messes everything up, and finally, German nationalism surges, and in 1871, Otto von Bismarck creates the first proto-German unified state. And they're all like, oh dang, we came late to this game. We gotta scramble for some colonies. And that's how all of these countries at one point spoke German. Oh, and also keep in mind, like 300 years before this, a German banking company obtained colonial rights to Venezuela for like 20 years. They were looking for the lost city of El Dorado. So technically, you can kind of say Germans colonized the Americas, but it wasn't like a nationalized conquest thing. Fast forward even more, and then you get World War I, the monarchy ends, Treaty of Versailles, they lose land, Nazis come in, World War II,
Nazi.
Germany splits in 2 for about 40 years, and then finally, we get the Germany we have today.
Yeah.
East Germany, consisting
Yes.
of these states, is today still quite different from the rest of Germany as it was first occupied and influenced by the Soviet Union. They are generally not as well off economically as the rest of the country, as you can still see the blocky Soviet-style buildings sprawled throughout the regions. In fact, the city of Berlin was split in half, and the west side was actually an enclave of West Germany, only accessible by train and highway. You can even see from a satellite image the divide. East Berlin still uses the yellowish tinted sulfur vapor light bulbs, whereas the west still uses fluorescent and mercury arc white tinted light
really?
bulbs. Now the funny thing is, although Berlin is the largest city in Germany, the busiest airports are actually Frankfurt, Munich, Dusseldorf, with Berlin Tegel ranking at number 4. Otherwise, some top notable landmarks and spots would be the Brandenburg Gate, the Valhalla, Cologne Cathedral, the Ulminster Church, the
Lovely
tallest in the
castles and
world, the
churches.
Berlin Victory
Wow.
Column, and hundreds of castles all over. The most notable one
Germany
probably
means
being Neuschwanstein,
castles.
the concept behind Disney's Cinderella Castle. Germany also has over 400 zoos, more than any other country in the world. And of course,
400
everybody
zoos,
knows about the
wow.
Autobahn.
Autobahn.
We know
If you
about
see
this.
this sign, it means there's no speed limit, and it's like that for a huge portion
Yeah.
of the roadway. And no wonder, considering how vast and wide those cultivated countrysides can get. Time for level 2.
Whoa.
Okay,
Physical.
think of it this way. In Germany, the more down you go, the more up you move. Basically, Germany lies on the Atlantic shelf in the north that starts with the mudflats in the North Sea. Seriously, this island right here is accessible only for a few hours by foot until the tide comes and floods everything. Then everything just kind of creeps up into the Alps in the south by Bavaria and Baden-Württemberg, with the highest mountain, Zugspitze, located right along the
Like
border
the
with
south
Austria.
is
Kind of like
north.
France, Germany is filled with a vast irrigating network of rivers like the Spree, Elbe, Weser, Rhine, and of course the mighty Danube that starts here. About a third of the land is arable and another third is woodland, and after a millennia of civilization, Germans have cultivated the crap out of their country. Most agriculture, of course, happens in the North Flat Plains and the central regions of the country, which is, by the way, kind of like Europe's tornado alley, due to its position sandwiched between the Arctic blasts of Scandinavia and the moist, warm jet streams of the Mediterranean below. Germany can be an atmospheric war zone in the summer. There are more tornadoes on average in Germany than any other country in Europe.
I thought it was only in
Germany is
USA.
the world's largest rye and hop producer. Germans abso-freaking-lutely love their bread. There are over 300 different kinds of bread in the country, more types than any other country.
300
Almost
types?
every
I
meal
want to eat
incorporates some
sourdough
kind of
bread.
slice or small bun or Brötchen of bread.
Brötchen.
Gluten-free? Nein! Germans are heavy meat eaters, specifically in pork. They basically know every possible way to cook a pig. Over 50 different types of sausage exist alongside schnitzels, rouladen, sauerbraten, Schweinsachse, and at a big party you might find
Tempting with your
Spanferkel.
veggies.
Beer reigns supreme all over as the third
Beer.
largest consumers of beer after the Czech Republic. Even their president has no problem with public intoxication. And Austria. Germany is world renowned for their beer, which by the way follows the Reinheitsgebot rule, in which they are only allowed to use water, hops, malt, and sometimes yeast.
There's a
Nonetheless,
rule?
about 1,300 breweries exist, pumping out over 5,000 brands. The oldest continuously existing brewery in the world, started by Benedictine monks in 1040 AD, can be found here. Germany takes the environment very seriously, and for the past 2 decades has been going on a major green revolution. As of today, they have the largest installed solar power capacity, and green infrastructure practices like home installed turbines and solar panels have seen a huge surgence in the past 10 years. Forests dominate the southern regions, where the landscape gets hillier and mountainous, the most famous one being the Black Forest or the Schwarzwald in Baden-Württemberg. Deer, bears, boar, foxes, badgers, and the national animal, the eagle, can be found thriving in these parts. Nonetheless, economically, Germany is known mostly for their exceptional engineering and industry
cars.
production. Companies we've all heard of like Volkswagen,
Yes.
BMW, Mercedes, Benz, Porsche, Audi, Telecom, Nivea, DHL,
Audi.
Bosch.
It's pronounced like that only.
Adidas! Puma! Yeah, it's kind of like the whole biscoito bolacha thing from Brazil. Remember? Well, we have mudflats, tornadoes, pork, beer, mountains. All that's missing is people. Level 3.
Whoa, the people.
Fun little side note, in Germany, this is 3, not this. Now, if the EU was a family, Germany would kind of be like the dad who got out of rehab, reconciled with his wife and kids, and is taking his new life very seriously as he is haunted by the demons of his past every day. First of all, the country has about 82 million people and is the most populated in the EU, second most in Europe after Russia, and has the 4th largest nominal GDP in the world. About 80% of the country identifies as ethnically German, 12% other Europeans, mostly Polish, Italian, Dutch, and so on. Turks make up about 3.5%, Asians at 2%, and the rest are made up of other groups like
2%
Africans
Asians
and Americans.
also.
Also, they use the euro, they use the C and F type outlets, and they drive on the right side of the road. Germany is without a doubt a global powerhouse. It is the strongest economy in the EU and makes up about 16% of the union's population. It's the 3rd largest exporter and importer of goods in the world. After the United States, Germany is also the 2nd most popular global migration destination. Germany experiences a high standard of living, tuition-free universities, if you get accepted that is, a mostly government subsidized universal healthcare system, about a quarter is still privatized, and state
Government
pension for
subsidized.
retirement at age 65. Now when it comes to language, things get a little tricky. Each state kind of has their own type of German. However, to get by, most Germans learn how to speak Hochdeutsch or High German, which is the standard dialect. The European Charter, however, protects the minority languages of Frisian, Danish, Romani, Sorbian, which is like a Slavic-based language used along the Czech-Polish border, and
Sorbian.
Plattdeutsch or Low German, which has
Plattdeutsch.
similarities to Dutch and is typically used by the Amish and Mennonite communities across the world. In terms of regional distinctions, though, Germany is kind of divided into 5 cultural areas: Rhineland, East and Middle Deutschland, Norddeutschland, Baden-Württemberg, and Bavaria. Rhineland is on the west side and has a culture somewhat more influenced by France, more Catholics. Carnival celebrations are huge out here. East and Middle Germany was the part that used to be its own country for 40 years, as it was influenced by the Soviets. Sorbians can also be found here too. Northern Germany has a coastal sea culture that identifies closer with Denmark and the Netherlands. They are also known for being kind of quiet and reserved. Baden-Württemberg has an interesting Swabian culture where they speak a dialect so
Swabian.
thick that only about 40% of it is intelligible to other Germans. And then you have Bavaria, which is where where the Americanized, perpetuated stereotypes about Germany came from, with lederhosen, dirndls, half-timber, beer houses, and cuckoo clocks. For the record, Germans are sick of those stereotypes. It's like saying all Americans are cowboys with guns and horses. Speaking of stereotypes, some of the stereotypes in Germany include things like Saxons being very indecisive, Berliners are always bragging about themselves, Swabians are stingy, Bavarians drink too much, Hessians talk too much, Holsteiners don't talk enough, and so on. Words differ from regions too. For example, in High German, you would say Auf Wiedersehen, but in Bavarian, you would say Fertig Gott. In Kölsch, you would say Tschüss, and in Rhineland, you might say Adios. And there's so many compound words that get really long and complicated, like Rindfleischetikettierungsüberwachungsaufgaben, Übertragungsgesetz.
The spellings.
Ambiguous words that are kind of elongated to give off an extensive meaning. Germans have very vivid imaginations and make up words for everything. Like my favorite word, Backpfeifengesicht. Not this time. By the way, for the record, this letter makes a double S sound. However, spelling reformers have tried to decrease the usage of this letter in recent years, which has led to some protests. Germans also love dubbing everything from foreign media into German. Some like this, some don't, but either way, it's here to stay. About 60% of the country identifies, at least nominally, as Christians, split between Protestants and Catholics. Germany was even the birthplace of the Protestant Reformation, split from the Catholic Church by Martin Luther. Otherwise, the rest are mostly agnostic or irreligious, with a noticeable community of Muslims, mostly from the huge Turkish and Middle Eastern communities, at about 5%, as well as a few Jews, Buddhists, and Hindus rounding up the remainder 1%. To kind of get a feel of what it's like to be German, you kind of have to understand where they've come from. After World War II, they kind of had a lot of work to do. However, it wasn't until the mid-50s and early 60s that the Wirtschaftswunder, or economic wonder, happened, to which almost everybody got to work. Basically, this guy envisioned and implemented a social market economy combined with free market capitalism alongside socialist policies that established fair competition.
Very smart guy.
GDP increased by 80%, investments by 120%, labor forces were utilized to the maximum. Things started to get better. In Germany, all children are corralled into general public schools until age 10, when they are given the option to enroll in 3 different types of middle schools. Gymnasium, geared towards focusing on higher linguistic, mathematic, and science fields for universities. Realschule, a middle ground type of school. And Hauptschule, a school that is geared towards helping kids that seem to show promise in specific
so good.
Germany also has the largest music market in the EU and the 3rd in the world after the US and Japan. They love preserving their heritage and culture through music and art. In fact, there are around 130 national orchestras, mostly supported by public money, and artists get a 50% reduction in health insurance through a special type of offer in the legal system. One thing that still kind of supposedly maintains itself in Germany is the mindset of Vergangenheitsbewältigung. Totally butchered that, which kind of translates to a lingering sense of guilt from the past. Germans have reportedly some of the lowest levels of national pride, and unless if you're at a soccer game, chances are you will almost never see anyone holding a German flag or waving it in any kind of like patriotic
very
stance.
long
It's weird,
ago.
but it's kind of how things are.
You monster!
They've made great strides to move on from the
70
past.
years.
Nazi flags and Mein Kampf are incredibly illegal items to own in Germany, and they even have a rule, the Volksverhetzung, which basically says you cannot talk trash by denying the past atrocities. Some people say this infringes on free speech, others say it's good because it solidifies truth. Otherwise, some notable Germans throughout history include Charlemagne, although he was a Frank, but I guess it kind of counts. Albrecht, Dürer, David Friedrich, Gutenberg, Bach, Beethoven, Karl Benz, Albert Einstein, although Americans would like to claim that he moved to the US and became an American. Johannes Kepler, Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, Friedrich Schiller, Michael Schumacher, Alex von Humboldt, and of course Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels co-founded Marxism. One thing Germans do best would have to be diplomacy. To this day, the German passport holds the most visa-free nations out of any other country in the world, just beating Sweden. Therefore, you can kind of conclude that Germany kind of knows how to relate to people. Let's find out how in the final round, level 4.
Wow. Now I know a lot
Germany
about
knows how to
Germany.
make friends. They have over 220 diplomatic missions abroad and over 350 honorary consuls and have an incredibly high position of authority in the EU. Their closest African friend would probably be Namibia. As a former German colony way back in the 19th century, Namibia held on relations, and to this day, German is still a recognized language in Namibia. Germans have been supporting and sharing ties both economically and ideologically for over a century. India and South Korea are really close friends in Asia. India supported both East and West Germany during the Cold War.
India
and after
supports everything.
they were like, woohoo, even better. And Germany is to South Korea what Japan is to France. They love to piggyback off of each other's ideas and cultures, especially in the automotive industry. Many South Koreans were sent to Germany after the Korean War to work abroad and study, and Germans have been growing in fascination with visiting South Korea. The US is probably the closest ally outside of the EU. About 30% of Americans claim German heritage, and after World War II, the Marshall Plan allowed the US to give post-war aid to Germany, which helped kickstart the economic recovery. Germany was a key figure in the formation of the State of Israel after World War II, which after the Holocaust left an obligation to invest in the building up of a Jewish community. Turkey is probably the closest Middle Eastern ally, as the Turks make up the largest Asian demographic in Germany, although many of them may or may not also identify as Kurds. But since Kurds don't have a state of their own, they usually go under Turkish passports when immigrating and are documented as such. Their best friends, however, would probably be literally all their neighbors. The thing is, Germany's kind of like Bosnia and
They have
Herzegovina,
such a
in
good
which by
relationship with
default
their
they're gonna be
neighbors.
friends based off of the regional.
We don't have that in India.
Bavarians get along with Austrians, Baden-Württembergs get along with Switzerland, East Germany has good relations with the Slavic
representation.
countries, the Rhine states love Belgium, Luxembourg, and France, and the North side loves the Netherlands and Denmark. France, though, is kind of like the trophy wife of Germany, as the two have had an angry start, but then eventually fell in love and worked together beautifully.
Aww.
France is like the beautiful, flashy spokesperson for the EU that stands in the spotlight as Germany stands in the background, managing all the money and logistical work.
Wow.
In conclusion, although Germanic peoples have existed for thousands of years, an actual unified German state didn't appear until kind of recently, and the brief time that they've been around, they've kind of gone through some of the most intense, world revolutionizing historical events possibly imagined. Yet they've come out working hard and building their way up to become a world superpower. You gotta give it to them. There's something about the Germans. And with that, final boss level complete.
Now I know a lot about Germany, and Germany basically has a lot of things going on, and the thing is I like it because they have been down and out, and like because after World War II I think so many countries would have never ever gotten back, and they would have gone into this corruption and this kind of phase. But Germany had the courage to come back and come back very, very strong. And now, even now, those people feel the guilt that we did all those things, or like our forefathers did that. But I think so it is 70, 75 years, and the people who did it might not be alive anymore. So it is something I think so they should move on. But yes, this is some very great inspiration to learn from.
Yeah, definitely. And the thing is, the way he said, nobody is like justifying like it was not like this, and they are just totally hated. It is like totally banned. You cannot like, just carry the the flags, or you cannot talk about that. It just at first we are reaching the levels. At first we come to know about the Hitlers and Nazis, and then the beauty and the castles, and now we know a lot like that bread thing and that gummy bears apart from cars and everything. And they are like, what I knew about German people was like they are like quite peaceful. But I was, yesterday I was reading some, facts on German people and Germany, how Indian people are experiencing their lives over there. So I read about like Germans are like kind of people who are like when they are working, they are just working, and when they are just chilling, they are like totally chilling. Like they cannot just interfere or mix up those things. So I just want to visit Germany.
Wow. And also the thing is like they are very good with their neighbors. We are not India. India has Pakistan on one side and then China on one side. We don't have
But
good
China is
relations.
not good friend of any other country. Like US-China conflicts are also.
But still, that is a problem. Now they have good friends everywhere. So, what do you guys think about it? Do let us know in the comment section below. So, do like, share, and
Subscribe.
bye.